And welcome into Dental Profits. I'm so excited to have Daniel Alonzo, speaker, author, coach, podcaster, and a guy who was financially independent at 28. We're going to talk today about having you get massive passive income. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Hi, folks. I'm Sean Crabtree.
And I'm Cameron Bailey.
Welcome into Growth Profits.
Coming to you live each week.
We don't want to change the way you do business.
We want to change the way you're thinking about your business.
We want you to have better results, happier clients, and make more money.
Let's get it started.
Daniel Alonzo, wealth expert, author, speaker, podcaster, media personality, and a man who was financially independent at 28. My friend, it is really, really nice to have you. I can't wait to jump into this, and I'm not going to talk about the beautiful palm trees and the warm weather you got in the background there.
Well, I'm glad to be here, Sean. Excited about being with you, and hopefully we could talk about some great things today and make some, big transformations for some people in their lives today.
And that, as you know, that's exactly what we do. I mean, this show is all about having happier clients, better results, making more money, and enjoying the ride. And those last two parts are right down your alley. Absolutely. Daniel, tell us a little bit before we jump into some of the meat. Tell us a little bit about your background. I mean, you started out as a really young guy getting after it hard.
Yeah. Well, if you start back, when I was a kid, I always had this entrepreneurial spirit. But I was a bad kid. I was one of those bad boys. I got in a lot of trouble. Me and the vice principal, man, we were real close. So I was one of those kids where, I hated school. I didn't enjoy the process of learning. I just, it wasn't my deal. I wasn't very good at math. I hated English. And I was kind of just going along for the ride. I did play sports. That was probably a big benefit to me. But when I got into business, as a young person, 21 years old, it was only because a buddy of mine recruited me. He said, "Hey, I actually hurt my knee real bad playing baseball. I left college. I was done with college. That was the only reason why I was going to college, Sean, is because I was playing baseball." And
it's
so
every kid's dream, man. Every kid's dream.
That's it, man. And I figured, you know what, I'm going to go and I'm going to go back and get a job. And I got a job and dead end jobs here and there. And I got recruited into business, and that's how it started.
So a buddy of yours recruited you into business, and I would assume that, like, up to that point, you had dreams of playing in the big leagues, right? Baseball in the bigs.
Yeah, of course. I think I wasn't big enough. I would have probably never made it to the pros, but it was something that I loved, man. I played baseball since I was 4 years old. I loved it. It was my passion. It was what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. But things don't always work out like they're supposed to. But I do say that it was a blessing in disguise, like there's no tomorrow.
And how many times, you and I have a lot, some similarities in our background in terms of what we do. How many times have you run into successful people who have that kind of blessing in their lives? I took a 12 gauge to the head from about 40 yards many years ago in a hunting accident, and got a life flight, and spent some time in the trauma center, and had a bunch of surgeries. And I got to tell you, for me, it was the greatest thing. It was that was a turning point in my life, a total point of clarity, and a blessing. And how many times do you run into that in people that you see that are successful?
Yeah, no, it's crazy. When you're explaining that, the first thing I thought about was I took a 90-mile-an-hour baseball to the side of the face.
Wow.
So that was definitely an eye-opening moment. But you see that. You see that all the time. People and I think entrepreneurs, I don't know, man. Maybe I don't know if I'm right or not, but I just know that us entrepreneurs, man, we go through a lot of shit, man. We go through our share of stuff that, we get beat up, and we get thrown around, and a lot of us maybe weren't always doing what society wanted us to do. And I think that's a part of why we become successful.
No, I agree with you. There's a little bit of a rebel, I think, in every entrepreneur. So Daniel, how did you go from having that passion to baseball? And I picked up on what you said. You weren't. I was a little bit like that too. You weren't really engaged in learning and so forth. But of course, now you're completely 360 on all of that. So what happened where you took the passion that you had for baseball, the lack of passion that you had for learning, and turned it into a serious passion for business and a lifelong learning?
Yeah, I had an aunt that she ran a multi-million dollar real estate firm. And matter of fact, she was in the 90s. She was number one for that company for all of the 90s. And she actually got invited to do Anthony Robbins's infomercial. So in the 90s, she was one of the success stories in his infomercial.
Awesome.
And so, but I didn't really have a strong relationship. She was kind of like on another side of the family that we didn't spend a lot of time with. And so the day I got into business, the first thing I did, and I don't know why I knew to do this, but the first thing I did is I said, I'm going to go talk to the most successful person that I know.
So you reached out to your aunt.
I reached out to her. She was like a second cousin or something. I mean, she was a far off, like never really had a relationship. So I call her up and she's like, yeah, let's go get a bite to eat. And it was like 11 o'clock at night because she was in real estate and she worked from, sun up to sundown.
Right.
Hard worker. I mean, she, became one of my serious mentors in my life, but she took me to an Anthony Robbins seminar.
Awesome.
And I swear to you, Sean, that was a massive turning point for me understanding my mind, how it works and why it's so important to really get educated.
Awesome. I worked with Tony for many years. I have a lot of respect for what he has going on. It was a joy to get to work with him. So tell us a little bit about how, you talk about a lot about massive passive income. So you've accomplished that. I mean, you're you look like you're 29, but you're actually, which is a good thing, my friend. When you're 60, that'll be even better. But no, you're not that young. You started out as a young guy. What are you, like 40 something, right?
43. Yep.
43. You look great for 43, my friend. So you're 43 years old, but at 28, I mean, you were essentially, you crossed the line, right?
That's it. I went into business at 21. By the time I was 28, I had $1 million saved. And
how'd you do that, man? How did you? Because the people that are listening to this are going, seriously, man? Come on. How'd you do that?
So first of all, the first step is you got to build a process. And so what I did when I went into business, I watched everybody. And by the way, I learned from all the shit that everybody was doing wrong. I looked at people and I watched them and I looked at them and I noticed that they always showed up late. They were always making excuses. They never did what they said they were going to do. And they didn't work hard. They didn't get results. They didn't have a process. They didn't have a system. And I'm like, and some of these people were making some money. They were making some serious cash. And, I came in, I was making $7 an hour at 21. And I said to myself, wait a minute, there's gotta be a better way. And so I really, really worked hard at building a system and a process. So, because for me, I was never a very good student. So I wasn't a very good learner. And I probably not been recognized in my life as having the greatest memory. So, they were teaching me and they were saying, hey, you got this yellow legal pad and then you just got to memorize all these words and this is your presentation to tell all the, your clients. And I'm like, I can't remember all that crap, Wow. And so I knew that there was a better way. So I systematized my process, what to say, how to say it, when to say it, in almost like painting by numbers. Mm-hmm. And then I just got nuts on duplicating it. I recruited and trained, and everything was about duplication. So when I would get results, Sean, I would immediately teach my top guys in my business, I would teach them exactly what I was doing. Like anytime something great, I got to recruit, I got to sell. And I would teach them word for word. I would call them late at night. Sometimes I'd call them at 10 o'clock after an appointment. I'd go, hey, you got 20 minutes? Boom. And I would just train them word for word. This is what I did. This is how I got the appointment. This is how I got the prospect. This is what I did specifically. Because everybody wants to motivate you. But I taught people specifically what to do. And then so I got a bunch of competent people. I got a bunch of, men and women that were as good as me, and some of them were even better than me. And I just kept training them, and then of course the duplication just started happening.
You said two major things there, and I think as entrepreneurs, we one of the things I've learned about myself and people who are entrepreneurial minded is they're about going after it, man. They're just solely always laser focused on going after it. Sometimes to the point where you're going after so many things at once that you're almost you're not narrowly focused enough, right? You got too many things that you're throwing at the wall. Learning from the mistakes of others, I think, is something that, at least from my perspective, is a huge lesson. I've always tried to do that, but then the entrepreneurial piece comes out of me, and sometimes you just go headstrong into it, regardless of what you think. So that's a huge lesson. And when you say that, you weren't necessarily as a young guy really into learning, I mean, that alone, Daniel, I think separates you. Being willing to learn from the mistakes of others and noticing that. The other big thing you said, though, I think is something that we deal with clients all the time on. You can't be so focused on doing it that you don't slow down enough to think about the process of getting it done. What is it Gerber talks about, tactically versus strategically. And I think great entrepreneurs put an equal focus on the strategy, the teachability of the strategy, the process, as you say, the duplication. Man, that's where it lives. Is that the biggest piece of advice that you would think that our entrepreneurs need to hear? Is the duplication and the process?
I think it's duplication. It's the process and then duplication. It's systematizing everything that you're doing. So it become, I always like to talk about McDonald's. I mean, everything that McDonald's does, it's systematized. I mean, you can have a 16-year-old run a multi-million-dollar, business because they are, they've systematized everything. I worked for Disneyland when I was 16 years old, 16, 17, and 18, kind of off and on. I was a float driver actually, but I worked kind of seasonally. And so they would have me come in the summers.
That's a cool job.
Like that. Yeah. I mean, I was the one driving down Main Street, but the day you get hired in Disney, they indoctrinate you, man. They stick you in a room for 8 hours and they play, Walt Disney movies and all these videos telling you the greatness of the, and then they walk you around the whole park and they tell you about all the little things, I mean, a lot of people don't know that when you're walking down Main Street and you smell all the chocolate and all the smell, it's all purposely done. Right. I mean, they are bringing you in. Right. And so, but it's all a process. Every single day they repeat. They don't get bored. I tell people all the time, Sean, don't get bored of the boring things. The boring things make you rich.
Good advice.
And so I took that. And so what I did, Sean, is I took that information, I duplicated like crazy, and I started building a lot of successful people. So that in turn made me a lot of money. So I was, within a couple of years, I was making $100,000 a year. And then I, started making 200 and 300 and 400 and 500. And then, but during that period of time from 21 to 28, what did I also do? I looked at all the mistakes of most people. What do? When they start making money, what do? They go blow it. They spend it. right? You're making 300 grand. If somebody's making 300 grand, what do you think they're doing? They're driving a nice Mercedes. They're living in $1 million home. They're just, all that stuff. So what I did at 24, I started making over 100 grand. And then so I started saving and investing. Everybody told me, why don't you buy a bigger car? Why don't you buy a nicer house? Why don't you do this? I was driving a $10,000 Maxima when I was making $300,000 a year.
Awesome, man. That's awesome.
We were saving at one point in time. We were saving 60% of our income because I wanted to be financially independent before I was 30. That was my goal, and I did it a lot quicker. But my goal was to be free, financially free, where nobody could ever put their thumb on me, and be done. And so I had to live below my means to be able to accomplish that.
Ah, that's great, man. That is great. So how long did you live? 60%. That's awesome. You are really taking care of business.
At one time. That was a period of time that we were. Yeah, absolutely.
Right. And so how about now? Where are you now?
Well, we're probably in the range of maybe, 25% of our income we save today.
Awesome. And so you've made it to that position. What is that position they call it? The screw you position, right?
Yeah. Well, hey, look, so I got financially independent at 28, and then I just kept saving, man. And it's become a habit. See, saving and investing your money becomes a habit.
Yes.
And I remember hearing years and years ago, some mentor early on, he says, if you ain't saving money when you don't have money, you're never going to save money when you have money. And so I just made it a part of my life. And like today, it's weird. People even today look at us and they're like, well, you could have even bought a nicer home. You could have even bought, everything that I do. I could have a fleet of Ferraris if I wanted, you know what I mean? But I don't do it because some of the stuff doesn't matter that much to me. My freedom is really what matters to me. My family, of course, we travel a lot, and and the other thing, Sean, I get up every day. I do whatever the hell I want to do every day. I call it wealth on the beach, man. Even though I don't live on the beach, I call it wealth on the beach. It really is. What that means is what do you want? What's your wealth on the beach? It's that being able to do what you want to do whenever you want to do it. If you want to go to the beach, if you want to go to the mountains, if you want to, just do jack nothing all day long and sit and watch movies.
Nothing. No, it's an awesome point, man. It's one of the things I think part of it is knowing yourself too. You got to know where you want to go. That's it. I think that's one of the greatest things I've learned is when I was a young guy, I absolutely had a desire to put myself in a position where, as you said, I wasn't going to be under somebody's thumb. And I think when you know that about yourself, then you're able to create those habits that last a lifetime. Awesome stuff. Let me ask you this. In coaching folks and coaching entrepreneurs, where do you see the biggest thing that's repeated over and over again? Where do you see the biggest challenge that most entrepreneurs across the industries are facing?
I think it's the little things. I think people overlook the little things.
Like what?
Such as leading from the front. I think that people get to that position. Yeah. They get to a position where they're saying, oh, I'm making 100 grand, 200 grand a year. And so they get to that position where they feel like they're some, we were paid $1.4 million last year in passive income, and I still go on appointments. Brad, I don't care how much money you're making. You got to make sure that you're still leading the charge, that you're still showing people how it's done. Like every year, there's usually a month or two every year that I'll just freaking roll up my sleeves and I'll go kill it, man. Mm-hmm. And I'll get the most recruits that month. I'll go get the most sales that month, and I'll just kill it. And I'll show everybody, all the naysayers, all the people that say I'm fat and lazy over here, although I'm not fat, but they'll say I'm lazy over here. And they'll say, oh, he thinks he's here. He just is, he's just living off of us or whatever, and I'll go after it again and show them how it's done. I'm never afraid to get back after it. And so again, I just think that people stop too soon. They stop, doing the things that they're supposed to do too early.
We call it being the example. You gotta be the example. You gotta be the example. And if you want your team to follow your lead, then you got to be the one setting that example. It doesn't matter how far above the ladder you get, right?
That's it.
So, dude, tell me, what's the biggest failure you think you've had in your career?
I mean, I don't know.
You're a young guy too, man. You're 42.
Yeah, I mean, I think, well, I don't know. I mean, I've made a couple of bad investments. Got kicked in the gut. But and nothing's been devastating to us. I don't know. I was kind of alluding a little bit earlier that, man, I mean, honestly, this has been such a uphill ride, I don't know how to say that. I mean, it's just gone, straight up so fast, man. I mean, 21 to 28, we were done, and we've just gotten to be able to run with the, I look back, I mean, I guess maybe one mistake, maybe I stopped too early. Maybe today I could be making $5 million a year. I don't know. I mean, maybe I stopped a little bit too early. Maybe 28 or 30 years old was too young for me to kind of, get out in a sense that, at that time. But I mean, other than that, man, I've had a freaking amazing ride, Sean. It really has been an amazing ride. I mean, I've traveled all over the world and have freedom that most people dream of, man. I mean, it's been amazing.
So what is the one thing, if you had to encapsulate it, what is the one thing that you think, the entrepreneur who's listening to this, what is the one thing that would change their life that you've taken away from that uphill ride?
I mean, sorry to repeat myself, but process, duplication, and selling the dream. Yeah. Those three things, Sean, are absolutely critical. And the cool thing about it, it's not just for my business. This is every business. This is every single business that I've ever come across. I mean, I was just I did a leadership training for the largest furniture manufacturer in the country. And we were having a conversation, and I did their group of leaders, and I was talking to them, and I said, look, every one of you, there are certain things that you do every day. Like, I was basically talking to all the successful management team of this organization. And I said, there are things when you walk in your shop every day, you walk in your store every day, there are certain things that you do every day. That's what makes you great. That's what makes you stand out amongst the other 1,000 locations that the company has.
Duplicate it.
Exactly. Duplicate that. Teach people
Make it teachable.
Make it teachable. And I think, Sean, too, what's sad is people don't want to teach other people because they have a lack of abundance mentality. That's the problem. They don't want to teach anybody else because they feel like, if I give you this information, then I'll have less for me. But that's bullshit, right? I mean,
I think there's a level of maturity that happens before you can get to that place. I used to spend, when I was a young guy, I would spend all my time trying to find the secret because I was convinced that whoever knew the secret was keeping the secret from everybody else.
Yeah.
And I learned that there really is no secret, but the basics of what you're talking about is be willing to share it and teach it. And it always comes back to you. Always.
Every time. And then the other part of it is there has to be a level of dream, Sean. There's got to be a level of, what are we doing this for? If I feel like I'm doing this for nothing, or I'm doing this for just so I can make you rich, well, then that's not very exciting for me. When I hire even a secretary that doesn't work on a commission basis like most of my agents do, when I hire a secretary, I get her pulled in. I get her to know that she's going to be a part of this organization, right, and I'm going to do everything in my power to help her become financially independent. help her see the vision and the future of what it could look like. And that's what we have to do with employees out there. If you're an entrepreneur and you have, 10 employees, 20 employees, 50 employees, you have to figure out ways to sell the dang dream to these people, because they got to see that this is going to benefit by them working their ass off and getting after it every day. This is for them too.
I couldn't agree more. And I mean, we spend an enormous amount of time on that. I think that's a good advice for everybody, not just the people on your team. If you, as the captain of the ship, are focused on the dream and the bigger picture and the vision and the overall of where you're trying to go, it also puts you in a position to be able to focus on the systematic, the duplication, the process. And at the end of the day, you're not going to be successful without all of those things. Really good stuff. Daniel, you got a book coming out, you said, right?
Yes.
Wealth on the Beach.
It is called Wealth on the Beach.
Wealth on the Beach.
Massive passive income so you can live the way you want, man. Do what you want to do, choices, freedoms, options, all that good stuff.
Man, I appreciate very much everything that you're bringing to the table here, Daniel. You are the example for what is possible, my friend. There's the floats are back there in the background floating around the pool. And,
there's my unicorn right there, man. That's the unicorn.
There's the unicorn. Dude, this has been a lot of fun, my friend. We got to do it again. I think next time we probably ought to get into some of the nitty-gritty stuff and have a little bit more fun. I really appreciate you joining us, Daniel. Thanks so much. Good stuff, man.
I appreciate you. And Sean, if I may, I just want to let everybody know I'm on YouTube. I am on Instagram, Facebook, all that good stuff. So at Daniel Alonzo, check it out, man. I bring value every single day. I'm teaching about selling. I'm teaching about the dream. I'm teaching about duplication. And I want to bring some value to your listeners and people that are viewing.
At Daniel Alonzo. Daniel, thank you, my friend. It's really been a lot of fun. Look forward to talking again.
Appreciate you, Sean. Have a great day, buddy.
Okay, I'm Sean, and this has been Dental Profits, the show that's all about you having happier clients, better results, making more money, and like Daniel Alonzo, enjoying the ride. See you next time.